We are living in unprecedented times. No matter what industry you come from, we must all review, rethink, and reinvent ourselves. Are you an entrepreneur that is trying to adapt your business to the new norm? Well, you are listening to the 2020 Entrepreneur, a podcast that will motivate you and have you think outside of the box. My name is Hugo Almeida, and with over 30 years of being an entrepreneur, I am here to share and inspire you with my experiences and help invent a new you. Hello, everybody, and welcome once again to T20E World. Hugo here, and I'm excited to kick off 2021 with a special guest, Julia Turner. Welcome, Julia.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Oh, man, love having you. And today's topic is pretty freaking awesome because it's about building a company coming right out of college. And Julia, young entrepreneur, has launched Nectar. And she's here to talk to us a little bit about her company, the evolution of it, how it started, and how she sources people to run her business. So excited, Julia. But let's talk a little bit about yourself. Give me a little tidbit of information about Julia.
Absolutely. So I was born and raised in Chicago, Illinois. I'm the youngest of three girls.
Cool.
I grew up in a very creative family. My father is a retired food photographer. So any like Weber cookbooks is my dad. So I've always been on sets. I've been on cookbook covers, I've been a hand model. And then my mother came from the advertising and marketing world. So really the combo of that has really piqued all three of our interests in, an artistic side. Personally, I love to bike. I love to be outdoors. I have two golden retrievers. I'm a huge cook. And then lastly, related to my business is, I'm a cannabis consumer and advocate. So we will dive into how that really prompted me to start this company.
So cool. So you have a passion and you're following it and you're putting it to work, which is freaking awesome, man. So what's the name of your company? And tell us a little bit about the company story and how it started.
Yeah. So our business is Nectar. Our specific product is called BuzzBox. So when I was a sophomore at Duke University, my roommate and I, we consumed cannabis, and that was kind of our thing over drinking. And, Duke is in a pretty rural place, so we would go to parties that were in like fields. And so we were able to roll up joints and we would bring them to the party with us. And when we would spark up, two things kind of happened. Like a lot of people would flock to us and kind of join the circle in rotation. But they were also pretty surprised that two younger women were consuming cannabis, that openly. And so I kind of just subconsciously kind of recognized these things. What we were carrying our joints in, I was not happy with. But where the real light bulb moment was is when I returned home that summer. I was with my best friend since I was born and her dad. And he was speaking about the same tubes that I use. They're just plastic science test tubes. And his family knew he consumed, but he was so embarrassed by them that he planted them in his garden amongst like the vegetables. Because he was like, you know what? I'm smoking outside. I'm not going to bring this in the house with me. And at that moment, everything that I had, recognized subconsciously as a student, I was just like, wow, you are an older 50 some year old successful man, and you're embarrassed by these tubes. And I'm a young woman in college and I'm embarrassed by these. And I looked at him and I said, I'm going to go home and I'm either going to find the solution or I'm going to make the solution. And obviously the latter happened. And, knowing my parents' background, I walked into the house with this bold idea and they were all over it. They were incredibly supportive. But past that, my dad and I created our first prototype. Within a week's time, we found a metal walker in the alley and dismembered a shampoo bottle from the inside of our house. And my mom was running, she was searching, she was looking at names for us. So within about a week's time, we had a product and this name. And, from there, it's history. Really, from there, I've worked my butt off to be where I am today.
You're grinding.
Absolutely.
I love
While
it.
being a college student.
Listen, oh my God, my hat off to you. I'm proud of you. I love the story. I love
Thank
the
you.
story because this is exactly true entrepreneurship, right? When you're young, you're
Yeah.
hustling, the day-to-day things. You know what? There is always a need out there, and it takes a special someone and that genius inside that someone to find the need, have the passion, and to have the guts to launch
Yeah.
it. So I love that
Yeah.
story. I love the prototype. And the fascinating thing is that you only did this in a week. Prototypes, now listen, I've been around for a while. To launch a prototype, I got news for you. It takes months and months, unless you're rushing something. But I love the fact that you found the walker, you cut the little leg tube off, use the shampoo
Yep.
cap. That's awesome. Good for you. Now, just out of
Yeah.
curiosity, what made you choose the name Nectar?
So it actually didn't start with Nectar. It started with BuzzBox. I just started to say, what are we creating? And I said out loud, we are creating a box that gets you buzzed. And I flipped it and I wanted to keep the name symmetrical. So I doubled the X. And then the next part's pretty funny. So past that, my dad actually drew the logo for us. So I went on the Pinterest and found the drawings that I liked, and then he was able to replicate the one that I really preferred, and then that's when we got to Nectar because we joined the buzz and the bee and sweet, and almost all of our inspiration comes from Apple. We wanted a recognizable logo, a one name word for the name of our company, and so that's where it came to be. But then the funny part is, people often remember words that are misspelled. So I looked at the C in Nectar and I decided to change it to a K for Kush and then doubled it because I had doubled the X. And then that's how Nectar came to be. And I have to say,
I
when I
love
tell
it.
that story, that is probably one of my favorite parts about starting a
I,
company is I can just say that's how the name came to be. Like the K's are in there because it's Kush and it's related to cannabis.
Listen, that's
And
awesome.
so
I'll tell you what,
I
I,
had a lot of fun doing that.
I haven't misspelled it once yet. It's easy to remember.
Yep.
It's so
It
true.
is.
Listen, Julia,
People
I got
remember things that,
absolutely. You're absolutely right. I got to ask you though. I
yeah,
know you just graduated, so congratulations on graduating. Did you graduate just this past May, 2020?
I did. So it was a
Virtually.
virtual graduation. Yeah.
So
Yep.
congratulations. So
Thank you.
I gotta ask this because I want everyone to kind of understand how young certain entrepreneurs are. Is you 20, what, 23?
I actually turned 23 yesterday.
Oh, well, happy birthday. Awesome.
Thank you.
So this brings us
Yeah.
to our next part of this whole conversation is here you are. You're coming out of college. You're finishing up all your final exams. You're launching Nectar, right? Now you need people
hmm
to help the process. And you come across Pangea.app. By the way, one of our sponsors this month. Awesome, awesome company. Also founded by two Brown University grads. How did you connect with Pangea.app?
That's a good story too. So right around March, when Duke extended our spring break for an additional week because we were unsure of the direction the pandemic was going in, Pangea had probably 200 to 300 students on it. But one of the campuses that it hit first was Duke. And so I signed up, and there were so few students on there that when I was looking through the students, Adam's profile actually came up and it noted that this was the founder. And so I shot him a message. I said I would love to hop on a call with you. And from there, we hopped on the call, probably slated for 15 minutes, and we ended up being on there for 45 minutes. And I was, essentially hired to be a part of the team to help them build out this product. And one of the reason, or the reason I reached out to him is I was actually employing students at Duke already.
Mm-hmm.
And when Duke said you no longer have classes, the three people I hired were now like, we have all the time in the world. Let's
Let's
launch this thing.
let's rock
And so
this.
when I found this platform that was proposing matching companies that were in need of students, and I had just seen three students go from full time students to essentially, I'll work for you full time. I reached out to Adam because I was like, this is going to blow up. Like,
Totally.
I've seen it within a week
I mean, it's like a
with the three
virus.
people I hire.
All major universities
Exactly.
are using Pangea.app. I mean, I think it's a fascinating concept. It's similar. I also I reached out to Adam. Someone reached out to our company, right? But long story short, Adam, I wound up talking to him. I was fascinating. It was just fascinating conversation that I had with them because it's just to understand the whole thought process, right? And to actually create this app and then start connecting all these universities across the country. I mean, we became a
Yep.
Pangea.app user ourselves. So let me ask you this. What do you actually look for in students through the app, you know?
Yeah, I would say the thing that for me that can't be taught is eagerness and determination and just, the will to even try. I think people hesitate in a lot of different areas in life because they're nervous, they're unsure of what the outcome is going to be, they're fearful. So when I look for a student, I just look for someone who's ready to go, like all hands on deck, is not concerned if their first or second iteration of something is incorrect or has to be tweaked, because to me those things can be changed. I can help them
Absolutely.
and guide them in that. You cannot teach someone to go out and give it their all every single time, get knocked down and get right back up. And so to me, for in students, I look for the qualities that cannot be taught, because to me, skills, any of that can be adapted along the way. And so just, yeah, like pure determination. And, that's me. I like to surround myself, with people like me. So that's what I look for in students.
Listen, Julia, you just hit the nail on the head. And I talk about this so often. I'm like, you want to be successful? Guess what? Surround yourself around successful people that love the hustle and grind. I mean, that's just
Yep.
at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. So I know that we've have similar successes with Pangea.app, especially in finding these, qualified students and recent grads. And to all our listeners in T20E world, we're going to dig a little deeper into this information here with Pangea.app and Julia as soon as we get back, thanking our sponsor. Are you a college student or recent graduate looking to land a job? Look no further. Pangea.app, a startup founded by two recent grads from Brown University, connecting students across the country with freelance projects that start part-time and can grow into full-time jobs. Get to work helping companies with their social media, websites, blogs, and products to make a real impact and make real money at the same time. Download for free at Pangea.app. That's Pangea.app. And start applying to remote roles at high-growth startups and e-commerce sites. Pangea.app, the first freelance marketplace built for students. All right, Julia, and we are back in full throttle. And we were just talking about, what you look for in students, right? Through the app and stuff like that. So let me ask you this question, because things have changed. And in 2020, and you know this very well, you had to adjust, pivot, and just completely change the way you graduate, the way you finalize all your exams. And, virtual graduation, I mean, it's just tough, right? But what makes you prefer to work with students through the app as opposed to selecting maybe senior individuals?
So I have to be honest, I do have a combination of both students and senior people. So I've hired two students that go to UNC Chapel Hill. So
Yeah.
we put our differences aside in our rivalry.
Okay.
But I actually also was able to plug Duke's Fuqua Business School. So I work with two older women who are in their second year at the business school. I would say, in the positions that I have filled with the Pangea students, which has been social media, marketing, and
Hmm.
content, to me, our generation just understands it. It's second nature to us. It's where our interests lie. I know that when, my students are working and going through social media, that's something that they want to be doing and enjoy, doing. And I also think there is absolutely, someone who doesn't have work experience, that's not necessarily a bad thing. They have an eagerness to them to learn.
No
They've
doubt.
never been in the corporate world, they've never been hired. They're trying to make their first impression last. And so I absolutely think there's value in not necessarily having a position, before, but then in areas that I need help, which is finance and business, I'm going to people that I know have that experience. I'm being taught those things because I'm straight out of college. So I can't say that these are things that are second nature to me. And so, the biggest thing for me is, finding what my strengths and weaknesses are, and what I do and don't like to do. And then I'm able to plug those areas, accordingly with people who that's where their skills lie or that's where their interests lie. And so our team is really just made up of people, we all help each other. Our cross communication is incredible. And so I don't prefer one or the other. I see there, to be benefits on both sides.
Absolutely. Savvy. I'm blown away. I mean, you're
Thank you.
23 years old. I have had conversations not as good as this one with senior executive vice presidents. No bullshit. This is, I mean, oh, hats off to you, man. It's impressive to talk to you. I mean,
Thank you.
you're dead on. And, you're an inspiration because there are so many students out there and recent graduates that are so concerned, right? And I get it. Listen, I was there too once. You're concerned, oh my God, what am I going to do? How do I get a job? Everything's been virtual, and you go into what? Panic mode, right? And I'm sure you got a ton of friends that graduated at Duke that were like, holy shit, no one picked me up. What do I do? But you just said something that's so important and so inspirational to all these students. It's not always about working in corporate, taking the steps that someone has molded for us, right? Get out there, man.
Yep.
It's like you just said, sometimes you prefer. It's no big deal if they don't have corporate experience. As a matter of fact, most of them can think so much cleaner right outside of the bubble. When somebody's out of corporate, they tend to be structured and they're always thinking within their comfort level, right? And what they were taught and what they were learned. Sometimes I say that's like they're contaminated sometimes because you don't want that. You want someone that's coming in fresh, great ideas, thinking crazy shit sometimes because that is what works. I mean, you coming up with your prototypes, that's crazy shit. I mean, in a week,
Absolutely.
I love it. Man, I love it. So let me ask you this. What's been the effective means of selecting your students? I mean, so you need a blogger, maybe a website designer, maybe someone to develop content or help. What do you normally do? You go to the app? What do you do?
Yeah, so I actually worked a lot with Adam on this because Adam and I mean, one of the best things from that first conversation, we recognized that we enjoyed talking to each other. Like at this stage at 23, you have to find the other founders,
Oh,
people
absolutely.
in the space, to bounce ideas off of.
Sure.
And so I really worked with him to say, how can I best present my company so that I can find the students that fit, the best for our company. And so what I really like to do is I like to be as realistic as possible. And so what we did is we put together a pre-hire assignment for everyone that we actually contacted. And so for us, we did it 2 weeks prior to Thanksgiving, and we knew we needed a Thanksgiving marketing campaign. And so we put together, a little assignment. It might seem like college, but it's a little assignment. But if you're interviewing for a position that you want and like, I would hope that you would view this assignment as a chance to showcase your
Absolutely, man.
skills.
It's
You know,
defining who they are, right? If they have no drive, you
exactly.
don't want them on your team anyway.
Exactly. And so through this pre-hire assignment, a lot of what we were able to vet prior to onboarding someone in the team is, how does your voice come through? What are your design skills? Do they align with ours? But then also, I was able to see they were on a timeline and we had to hop on calls and they actually had to pitch the idea. I said, okay, how are you going to communicate once you're in this group? Are you going to speak up? Are you going to come to the table with a lot of ideas, and words about why you support these things? And so to me, it was just, it's almost giving them the exact same assignment that they're going to have on the other side of the coin,
Mhm.
but doing it before you string them along or before they're, truly involved. And, I was so fortunate, all of our pre-hire assignments were great, but from there I was able to see, okay, here's who really, hit the nail on it.
Wow. Very good. Very good. I'm just curious. The way Pangea.app works, which is beautiful, is that you can get talent and it truly doesn't matter where they are. And if there's anything we learned in 2020, right, is about pivoting and being able to be virtual anywhere. I mean, shit, you don't even have to be in the US technically, right? But here's an important question for you. I know you have established a certain culture in your organization, and I love it because I love the vibe, And how challenging as the CEO and founder of Nectar has it been to keep that culture alive, right? Because everybody's virtualized. Some people are reporting in locally to your office and warehouse, but really most of the people that are working for you, right, are contractors and they're virtualized. So how do you keep that culture going?
I think it's interesting. One, being a cannabis company, which, is a pretty, lively and interesting business as is. On
True.
top of that, I'm a queer woman of color, so I have a lot of personality. The four people that I brought on share, those identities with me. And so the culture that I'm creating, or that, our company creates, is I brought in people who look like me and like cannabis. And so, it's not hard to pull their arm and be like, come on, get engaged. Like, this is what they want to be doing. They feel like they have a stake in it. One thing that I like to do, I tell all of them, please don't view that you work for me, but you work with me.
Totally.
I don't want them to view me as the hierarchy or anything like that. I give them projects and I say, create what you want to create, not what you think I want to see. Because I, always give my feedback and adjust to that.
Sure.
But, I believe every person on our team truly feels like they have a stake or a foot in this. And when people believe that and people know that, you do not have to encourage them to stay involved. They are involved because they are a part of it.
Julia, are you sure you haven't been in my office here? And that's the culture we've created here as well. And let me tell you,
Yeah.
that is the right method. Congratulations to you, really. I love it. I
Thank
love
you.
it. Hey, let me ask you a quick question before we wrap this up. Cannabis, marijuana. Talk to me from your point of view.
Well, one, I think it's interesting. So I'm actually a medical marijuana patient
Hmm.
in Illinois.
Okay,
So one thing like that is like just kind of fits.
that's
It
right.
works like that. So
Marketing.
yeah, I think it's a preference. I think cannabis is viewed as a more elegant word
Hmm.
than, necessarily marijuana
Hmm.
is. It's pretty interchangeable. I think it kind of just flows. There,
It's the
times where
professional
you joke
ways.
and yeah, you say pot or you say weed. Those aren't the dominating words when you speak about cannabis,
Yeah.
but I find myself using it interchangeably.
I was just
I
curious.
don't think,
Just curious. I
yeah.
mean, I know there's a lot more history behind the names and stuff like that. You know what I mean? But I was just curious as to your opinion. And I wanted to thank you for your time because this has just been a phenomenal, phenomenal conversation we've had. I've learned a lot about yourself, your company. I think it's exciting. I'm impressed. I'm ecstatic. And I wanted to ask you, if I were to share one bit of advice, college students, people just coming out of school that just graduated like yourself, what would that one bit of advice be to them?
I think this applies to everyone, and I think it applies to any part of your life, is to go after what you want and do not let fear, cripple your dreams or your desires or whatever it is. At the end of the day, at the end of my life, I do not want to regret anything. And I think people are hesitant to jump into things because they cannot forecast what the outcome will be and are fearful of, what a lot of people, say is failure. I don't really look at anything that happens to me as a failure. I look at it as it might be a setback, but it's also probably a redirection into a different way.
You learn.
And I mean, yeah, you absolutely learn from every experience that you have. So do not deprive yourself of those experiences, of those chances. Just do not let fear, guide you. Take a leap of faith, whether it's starting a company, whether it's applying to your dream school, whether it's saying something to your crush, whether it's moving to a new city. I mean, it really applies to everything. And I try and lead my life by, really going after what I want to and letting it fall into place.
I love it. Thank you so much for that word of advice. In Ecuador, we have a saying that sums it all up, and I always use it. I live by it. It's called Chuja Vida. You live only once.
Yep.
Julia of Nectar, share the website, please, before we wrap this up.
Absolutely. You can find us at www.nekktar.com, or I know everyone's on Instagram. Our handle is BY by Nectar, BYNEKKTAR.
Awesome. So with that, my friends, this is Julia Turner and Hugo, and we are checking out.